Welcome to this week's Know Your Foe. We're going to take a little bit of a different spin because, as you can see, we have legendary Wildcat Lance Briggs, three-time All Pac-10 selection back in the day for your beloved Wildcats. Lance, thank you so much for joining me today.
I appreciate it. Thank you, and thank you for getting that right. A lot of people say two-time All Pac-12 selection, but I was actually three-time. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. We're going to put some respect on your name today.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
So congrats on the nomination for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that definitely feel like you should be in the Hall of Fame. Brian Urlacher has definitely talked about it. And, you're one of the legendary linebackers and one of the best in your era. So congrats on that. And hopefully it works out.
I hope so. Listen, when we're talking about U of A, obviously Gronkowski's coming in. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame. He'll be a first ballot guy. And hopefully I get in there. But with the talent that we're seeing right now from our current U of A squad, I think the future is very bright, and we have a lot of potential stars that can come out and really put a dent in the NFL and have a chance at the NFL by the end of their career.
Absolutely. But before we get started, I did want to share a story. The first time I met Lance, it was actually, so I was a freshly minted airman in the Air Force stationed out of Pensacola in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. And I realized that the Senior Bowl was just down the street in Mobile. And so I went out to go see you and Bobby. Bobby Wade was out there at the same time.
Yeah, that's my guy, right?
And what the funny story was Cliff Kingsbury was out there. Chris Sims was a quarterback out there at the same time. Seneca Wallace from Iowa State back in the day. All those guys were out there. But my favorite part was you're coming off, and I had a ball, and I was just like, hey, man, can you sign this? I'm a big U of A fan, whatever. And you were like, oh, yeah, no problem, whatever. And then you took two steps, and Bobby's right behind you. And Bobby was just going to just ghost me. And I said, really, you going to do me? I just came all the way from Phoenix, right by your school at Desert Vista. Come on, man. He was like, you really came all the way out from Phoenix? I was like, yeah. No, I came from right up the street. It was okay. It was
right, yeah.
And you just like, man, sign the ball.
There we go.
So that was my first interaction with you.
There we go. Man, shoot, man, listen, me and Bobby, that's been my boy since I was 18 coming out of high school, and met right before we went into college together. And then we got drafted together. And obviously we went to the Senior Bowl and had a good time out there. Do you remember what the Senior Bowl was sponsored by that year? It was Krispy Kreme donuts.
Well, it's Reese's. It's Reese's now, so it's not much better.
Right. There were boxes of Krispy Kreme after every, and you've got media everywhere, coaches, and everybody keeping an eye on you. I was sneaking a box damn near every day.
That's awesome. It's always funny how these sponsors are big sponsors, but like football players are some of the most healthy people in the world. Like it just doesn't really connect. But listen, I'm really excited to talk to you about this U of A squad. You talked about the talent and potential future Hall of Famers themselves, and especially when you're looking at a guy like T-Mac. Tacario Davis had a fantastic game last week at Utah, Defensive Player of the Year in the Big 12. What has been your overall assessment through the first four games, 3-1, 1-0 in the conference, and really the new era of Arizona Wildcats football in a completely new conference?
Well, I think there's been some growing pains, the transition, and there's been some growing pains. The thing that has stood, I don't want to say it stood out, but the thing that has been there is these players that they have on this team are capable. They're capable. Okay, so when I talk about the growing pains, it's new coaches calling new systems and doing things a little their way, And I felt like against Utah, there was less experimenting with certain things and playing to the strengths of what we have. And I hope that what we saw last week is an indication of where we're headed. Being around those players, it's a really special group, in my opinion. Just having a conversation with them, talking with Manu, talking with Tacario Davis, these guys, they're great individuals, great human beings, and I think they're outstanding leaders. Now it has to transition to the field. They've done it before. You've seen them do it in the past. We had a 10-win season last year. We have a new coaching staff, but against Utah, in my opinion, we saw them take a step in the right direction, a real step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You just kind of touched on something real quick. I do want to go back to. You said you spoke with Jacob Manu, and obviously you two play similar positions at linebacker, especially during your time here at U of A. But you're a bigger guy than Jacob Manu. Jacob Manu's a little shorter, not as stout of an individual. Did you guys talk about technique, perspectives, or anything? Did you get granular in any kind of approach to the linebacker position that maybe you hope would help him down the road?
We talked football, but we also talked life, and like I say, he's a great person to be around. He's a great kid, man, and his intensity on the field, the way that the coaching staff, Akina and some of his coaches have explained him, what he brings to the table. To me, I feel like there's less that I need to say because of the way that you play, on the field, any of the questions that he's had, to me, has been about the experience. It's been more so about the experience that I had while I was in college, the experience of preparing for the NFL. When did you know? And that's not just him, but that's a question for a lot of the U of A Wildcats. When did you know that NFL was a reality? And so I really enjoy organic conversations, nothing forced, nothing putting me in front of the whole team and having and speaking about this issue or that issue. When we can sit around, a pool table, and you feel like talking, and I'm always up for it, and I love those conversations. I love being around the team in that way, and I hope that the conversations we had were beneficial to them.
When did you know? When did you know you were ready for the NFL, or you had the ability to play in the NFL?
I knew my sophomore year. When Ortiz Jenkins, I had my first start against Utah. And then I want to say by about the third or fourth game, Ortiz Jenkins came up to me and he's like, listen, he goes, these NFL scouts keep coming up there like raving about you. Every week they come up there talking about you every week. And he's like, you're going to play on Sundays, and that was the first time where I was kind of like ear to ear, smiles like, oh, maybe I can play. Maybe I will play, and that was the first time I thought about it. I really thought about it outside of just wanting to win as a U of A Wildcat.
My man grew another foot that day, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Well, hey, let's get to talk about this upcoming matchup with Texas Tech. Texas Tech spread offense can be really dicey, very difficult at home, but on the road they have been very shaky. They've got a really good running back in Tahj Brooks, one of the best in the country. Have you had a chance to watch them play at all? And how difficult is it to match up with a team that likes to spread you out, but is also just as equally dominant on the ground?
Well, it's a numbers game. When they spread you out, it's a numbers game, especially if you have a good running back. So you have to be stout inside. Manu has to be very stout. Especially if they're in a 5-man versus a 6-man box with a spread offense and they're running the ball. So he may have to fall back depending on what their coverage is. I think the thing that plays to the strength of U of A is playing in the Pac-12 conference. In the past, you're playing against a ton of spread offenses. You're going against a Washington State every year that's going to spread it out. Whether they have a strong running back or not, they're still going to spread that ball out. So I think it plays to the strength of U of A. It's not a team. It's not a scheme that they're completely unfamiliar with. And at the end of the day, if you get 11 guys that are running to the ball on each play, you have a chance.
You feel good about their matchup this week, especially considering how the secondary played last week. Especially Tacario, he was just fantastic. He was a shutdown corner by definition through and through. That's got to give you a little bit of confidence, right?
It does. The thing about good play, you can't just have a good week. All right, the best players are consistent. So Tacario, it's expected for him to come out and play the way that he played last week. You've got to come out this week and do it again. That's what great players do. And then the following week, you got to come out and do it again. All right. Great players have a down week, a bad week. not a great week. You know what I mean? They have a down week based off after a string of great weeks. So that, I think, is what is more important than anything else. Like that last week was great. It was great for him. It was great for the defense. It was great for the whole team. You know, now we have to string along consistency and play great offensively. We've got to move that ball this week the way we moved it last week. Defensively, we have to be stout the way we were last week. And you have to continue to set that standard. The standard has to be high, and it can't be changing. Can't be changeable.
What have you liked from what you've seen from Dwayne Akina's defense and the structure of it, and some of the unique looks that he'll present Texas Tech this week?
Well, I'll tell you, I wasn't too happy in week 1 and week 2. I wasn't too happy about it. You know, it looked
none of us were.
Right. To me, it looked very experimental. It looked like they were experimenting with things, you know, and they were trying things that obviously weren't working. This past week is what we want to be used to. All right. Now I've played for Akina. You know, he's always been staunch about, you know, your fundamentals, you know, and understanding how this team is going to attack you and what to expect from them. So one thing I know that this defense and all these defensive players they will be prepared. That I do know, they will be prepared. Now, once you're prepared and you go onto that field, that transition of being prepared and taking that onto the field, that's on the player. That's certainly on the player. And I know they're capable. So I'm hoping that, again, what I saw last week is the trend and we continue that.
Yeah, you know, that's funny you mentioned that because I was there in Manhattan, Kansas when we lost to Kansas State. And in the post-game press conference, Trey Smith had said, you know, when he was asked about, you know, what's the thing that needs to change, the number one thing he said was people have got to be more fundamental and they've got to focus on their keys. Like we're just getting too distracted and we're too all over the place and we're losing sight of what is exactly supposed to happen because people are not keying in on the right thing. So to your point, like I definitely agree. On the offensive side of the ball, you know, listen, I think Arizona's offense is good enough to dictate whatever they want to do on the field if they're all playing together, you know, on the same level. Is that your assessment as well? And how diverse? You know, I look back at Kansas State. Kansas State was trying to make T-Mac win the game by himself, even though, you know, as an offense and really as a quarterback by nature, you're not used to throwing the ball to one specific target 30, 40 times a game. And that's basically what K-State was trying to, they wanted to shut everybody else down, let T-Mac get his. Last week in Utah, it was almost a little bit of the same, but Arizona was able to be a little bit more diverse in their attack. Kean Burnett was a huge, you know, asset along the sideline. He had a phenomenal catch. Also had one in the back of the end zone, which is a momentum changer. And then they were able to run the ball. What has been your assessment of this offense as well?
Love the ability to run the ball. You know, that will offset any game plan that you have. You know, if you want to take this guy away or that guy away, and you start to run the ball and you're effective running the ball, now you have to make some changes defensively. You know, one of the things you're looking for defensively is a heavy tendency. Now, if you have a tendency that says, okay, you throw the ball to T-Mac, you know, 20 or 10 or 12 more times than you do the next receiver, then game planning, it becomes a lot easier because we have to shut this player down. Now, when you start being effective running the ball, now you have to throw some of that stuff out, and you have to stop the run. Once you stop the run, that opens up the door for everything you want to do with all of your players.
Well, hey, I won't take up too much of your time. I just very much appreciate you joining us today on Know Your Foe. You can follow Lance on Twitter at Lance Briggs. Also, check him out. The CHGO post-game show is basically what it is.
Post-game show.
What's it called officially?
It's the post-game show. Also, the Briggs and Brown show. Don't miss it. All right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
The Briggs and Brown show, which actually was recorded just before we did this, and I was backstage watching it. It is fantastic. Take an opportunity, CHGO Bears. It's ironic that you are playing for the Bears and you also played for the Wildcats, and both teams use the motto "Bear Down." That's pretty dope.
But U of A has it trademarked, so you won't see it for the Bears, but you can say it.
There you go. Hey, I mean, listen, as a Wildcat, fellow Wildcat myself, I appreciate your time, and we always bear down here. So good luck with you and your shows moving forward, and thanks for joining us today.
I appreciate you. Take care, brother.
We all silly like the mayor.